Good morning. Good morning. Today is Sunday, May 5th, 2024. Thank you for joining us this morning. Um, let's start, like we always do, by making aspirations, setting our intentions. We say the four immeasurables prayer. May all beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all beings not be separated from the happiness that has never known suffering. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment, anger, and aversion. Victoria is going to join us in a bit and go over some of the teachings from last week when we had Kalu Rinpoche here. She's going to review some of the things that he talked about. That teaching will be up on YouTube soon, if it's not already. Meditation with Michael Imperioli YouTube channel. All the classes that we do here eventually go there. I was going to read something from a quote. Where is it? Sorry. Okay. This is from an Instagram page that I like a lot, called Mind Michael, by someone named Michael Gregory. It's a very good Instagram page. Has a lot of great teachings, mostly Tibetan Buddhist teachings. And this is a quote from Padmasambhava, Guru Rinpoche. Actually, no, there's a picture of Padmasambhava. It's a quote from Chamchul Rinpoche. Be in the world, but not of the world. Even though worldly happiness never lasts, there is absolutely nothing wrong with it when encountering external things that give rise to it. In fact, for as long as you are a samsaric being, worldly happiness is inevitable. Whether you are eating a delicious meal, or feeling the warmth of the sun on your back, or spending time with an old friend, or your football team wins, or you are listening to your favorite music, whatever it is, there is a high chance that you will experience worldly happiness. There are countless external things in this world that will give rise to worldly happiness, and may you enjoy them. But, this is a big but, without realizing that your mind alone is the only source of true lasting happiness that is not dependent on external things, you will continue to search and grasp outwards for your happiness, as though you are placing your well-being in the hands of other people and things. If you do this, it is as if you will always be at their mercy, as though you are handing over your power to them, as though you are allowing them to decide how you should feel. This is certainly not the way to live your precious human life as a Buddhist practitioner on the path to Buddhahood. You must become your own master of your emotions and not be an emotional slave of the external world. You must break free from the chains of emotional dependency by turning inwards into the depths of your mind to discover the true and only lasting source of happiness. And while you are still a samsaric being on the path to Buddhahood, have joyful gratitude when enjoying all of those external things that give rise to your worldly happiness, while at the same time work on weakening your grasping and attachment to them. Imagine catching a bird with grasping and attachment and holding onto it tightly with your clenched fist and not wanting to let it fly away. Now imagine just allowing the bird to fly down and land upon your open hand, and without grasping or attachment, you enjoy watching it come and go as it pleases. Make your mind like the open hand, and enjoy life without grasping and attachment as external things come and go. You will not only experience worldly happiness, but a true lasting happiness will begin to arise deep within your mind. So be in the world, but not of the world, and enjoy your outer and inner life as you progress on the path to your freedom from samsara and to Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. Cham Trul Rinpoche. I really love that quote. I think it's very in line with what we always talk about here, which is mind. That was always the focus of, when we started this class in Garchen Rinpoche, upon hearing that a lot of you were interested in Dharma, Buddha Dharma, rather than just secular meditation, said to, if we do any discussions, that it be about mind, because mind, the name of the Buddha is not the name of a man. Buddha is the name of your mind. And that quote that we read is also very much aligned with a very pith instruction of Buddha himself, which is, you are your own master. Who can be your master if not yourself? There's actually a really good teaching on YouTube by Zantsar Khyentse Rinpoche called You Are Your Own Master, where he goes into this quite a bit. But in Bodh Gaya, where Buddha attained enlightenment, the Mahabodhi temple complex, there's all these, as you circambulate the temple, there's, teachings of the Buddha, and, from his original, sutras, and one of them is, you are your own master. You see that if you circambulate the temple, you are your master. You are your own master. Who could be your master if not yourself? I'm paraphrasing it, but that's basically the essence of it. So Victoria is going to speak for a bit about, like I said, reviewing some of last week's teachings from Kalu Rinpoche, and then when she's done, we'll do some meditation, and then some questions, if you like. Unless you want to sit first, it's up to you.
I think we should sit on this.
After that?
Yeah.
Okay. Great.
Sorry I'm late. So last week, 2 weeks ago, we had an incredible opportunity to hear from a very realized master, Kalu Rinpoche. And I re-listened to the teaching again and picked out two specific points. It's actually one specific point. It's exactly what Michael was quoting earlier, and saying the words of the Buddha, who is your own master? Because we are our own mind. And so what is our mind? Who controls it? Where do all these thoughts arise from? Where do they cease? Which space? Where is the origin, remaining, and cessation of every single thought, emotion, etc., impetus for action? Anyway, Kalu Rinpoche was speaking about emotions. Particularly, he was speaking about, he said it's easier to start with anger because it's a very visible, visceral, physical, charged emotion. It's super detectable because the moment anger arises, and of course first it arises as a thought, our body, through emotions and physical changes occur very rapidly, and they're very, very visible. Much harder to catch things like attachment, but jealousy, anger, very strong desire, those are the things that are easier to catch because their grasp is so strong that we can observe perceptual differences in our demeanor, in our body, etc., etc. He was specifically talking about anger, and he said the wrong question is, when people come and ask him, how do I control my anger? He said that is a wrong question. That is already arises from a wrong view, and it arises from ignorance, because what are you controlling? Is there something, is anger something out there? Is that person causing my anger to arise? Is there a source of anger anywhere else other than one's own mind? So if we, in a very kind of a naive way, if we identify with the body as the self, and we identify with our emotions as things out there that are alive and exist on their own, we're already starting from a point of view of basic human ignorance, not just human, of the six realms, of basic sentient ignorance, I should say. And because we're identifying with the body as the self, and we're identifying and we're imputing existence on things like emotions and causes of these emotions as things out there, so there is no controlling anger. It's the wrong approach. He also said there is no letting go of anger. There's no this passive approach. Oh, if I'm angry, I'm gonna just let it go and da 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 da. I mean, there is a letting go on a level of practice, but not this ordinary thing that we mean by letting go. We're going to be passive. We're just going to get slapped around, and we're going to take the abuse. Both of these approaches, this controlling the anger and letting go the anger in an ordinary sense, implies this dependence and an underlying assumption, me as an entity and causes of my emotions as out there, right? In Buddhism, that is all seeped and based on ignorance, ignorance of knowing how things truly abide, self and other, and all these other things we impute and feel that are existent. So Rinpoche said that we need to, there is in Buddhism, we overcome anger, we overcome and dismantle desire, we dismantle and overcome. By dismantling, we overcome the five afflictive emotions. Ignorance being, of course, the first and the last, because there's subtle ignorance no matter what. Whenever we identify with conceptual anything, there is going to be subtle ignorance. For very, very advanced practitioners, whom we call bodhisattvas, there will still be things to overcome. And what are we overcoming? And that's what Rinpoche said. Here we have to use analytical methodology. We need to analyze. We need to analyze the essence of anger, the source, and the cause of anger. When we do so, we see that anger does not have existence of its own outside of our mental projection. We project anger because we view certain things with negative, through negative thoughts, and we respond to these negative assessments or projections with our own negative afflictive emotions, right? So if I project that the world is very hostile, the moment I open the door and walk into that environment, I'm already walking out into that environment on flames, because I've already projected that hostility. I said everything out there is so horrendous and so bad. So I respond to that intrinsically. And so my internal state, I project the exterior, and then my interior matches it. So I have everything on flame outside because I say the world is burning, it's all horrible. And on the inside, I match that fire with this kind of an invisible wall, which really doesn't exist. So that's why we use analytical methods. We use analytical meditation to understand the essence of things. When we start to understand that this world, this other person I call my enemy, this horrendous world, etc., is a projection of my mind. And I'm not saying that on a relative level, bad things don't exist. That is not at all what I'm saying. And that's not at all what the teachings say. There is a relative level of reality where we have to deal and contend with guns and death and violence and things like that. But we're talking about, when we speak about analysis, we're speaking about understanding things on an ultimate level. And understanding, of course, that the relative level permeates and and we're a part of that. But we have to understand that we create the relative level of reality. We're participants in the relative level of reality and how it appears. It doesn't just descend on us. It's a singularity in conjunction with our projection. That's what the world is. That's what others are. It is a conjunction. It is our projection and then experience of that projection out there in relative terms. And we can check that by using examples. So if I'm, somebody made me very angry, my enemy, this man said, you're ugly, you're this, the praise and blame kind of an element, said horrible things to me, or kicked me, or took my something away from me, and I become very angry and I call that person my enemy. So let's pretend this person is not an adult, is not my boss, is not my relative, is not my, this and that, but is my child, or just a child who's a year old. That child kicked me, called me a bad name, took away my thing, ate my food, messed up my room, did, set my house on fire. We're not going to lose our patience with the child of 1 year old. Why? Because our assessment, our projection is different from when we go from a child to an adult. That's why there is no permanence. So when we analyze, we understand there's nothing permanent out there. In 1 second, I can change my mind by conceiving of that person or that other in a different manner. So there's no stability. So there's no, the causes do not lie outside. It's not that child who burnt my house or that person I call my enemy. It is how I project things onto that person. And again, as I said, doesn't mean that we are ignoring the relative things of the world and us in it, but we become aware that things come from us, from our side, from our mind, and then we react to the way that we understand and perceive things based on our projections. Analytical meditation, which comes after formal analysis, is called vipassana, right? So we say, where is that anger? What is that anger? What's the source of that anger? That source of anger is my mind. Where is the mind? What are the thoughts? Are they perceptible? Are they graspable? So we meditate on that in formal session of vipassana. And then if we can get to that place where we really can kind of see the thoughts arise like little clouds in the sky, and then they cease in that space of awareness. After all, when we stop being angry, where did that anger go? It melted inside us. It ceased inside us. Angry mind is like an ocean. Let's say awareness, metaphor for awareness is the sky or the ocean, that when we are starting to project and churn and have conceptual thoughts, especially thoughts that are based and triggered by ignorance of being attached to myself. When we say, how could he call me that? How could he take my thing? And that ocean or that sky becomes completely engulfed in this crazy weather of energy of mind. And, if we know that cloud stores, those clouds, that storm, that hurricane, or the waves arise based on my mind and my mind's projections, we can pacify our mind by recognizing and remembering the state of complete openness and clarity, which is the nature of our mind. What I'm talking about, and that's what we often refer to as emptiness. I mean, not often, we refer to it as emptiness. It's not a great word because people think of emptiness as like the floor falling out and they falling and falling and falling, etc. It's not like that. Rather, it is a preconceptual state of mind. It is like the state of mind of the sky without clouds, without the churning, or of the ocean without the waves and the hurricane. So we have to think of mind's nature not as empty as being void of everything. That's again relying on physical things. It's like space without objects, void. Mind is not like that. Preconceptual state of mind, the nature of mind, is just a cloudless sky where awareness is not grasping to the self, the other, or objects. That's what that emptiness refers to. Mind without grasping, mind without things in it, awareness that holds itself and watches its own nature. So when we're going through difficult emotions and anger arises and attachment arises, we analyze, we examine, and then we go, wait a minute, let me breathe in, let me come back to the state of mind that is without all this activity. Let me come back to a state of mind that is not conceptually uh, churned and made crazy. And because I know that these thoughts and these things arise in my mind that will eventually cease in my mind, in the space of my awareness. So no need to get so insane and so crazy. And of course, it helps us act in a proper way too, when our mind is not, when we don't lose control of mind. So again, controlling the anger or other 5 afflictive emotions, or just letting go in a passive way, is not the method. For Buddhists, we abandon these things by returning to a cloudless state of awareness. And that we can only experience in meditation, because we're not going to experience that cloudless state of mind anywhere else outside of a formal session of meditation. That's why such a huge emphasis is put on meditation and Buddhism, because it's only in meditation that we can experience directly the nature of mind, preconceptual awareness, mind without things floating in it, a mind without uh, attachment and grasping and reactions to things in it. It's just mind watching itself. That's what we do in meditation. So this is very important. Uh, you know, uh, that's why we have to meditate, because it's the only time that our luminous, infinitely open awareness, nature of mind, and is available to us, and we can only experience it in that space. Advanced practitioners can take that state of mind all the time with them, but we baby practitioners, we do it on the cushion, and then when difficult moments arise, we remember, oh, that experience on the cushion of my stainless mind nature. If I'm going to act, let me act, not react, and not be driven insane by ignorance that believes that all these things are out there. All these things are my mind. And when facing difficulties, clarity is the thing we need the most. Control is the thing we need the most. I don't mean this control of anger. What I mean is remembering, recollecting the purity of mind, and that when we act, we are basing ourselves on clarity as opposed to this ignorant self-attachment. And practice is the only thing that can lead us to curbing projections, and therefore curbing or changing, transforming how much energy goes into emotions. It changes us from thinking emotions have basis somewhere out there to knowing that emotions are completely self-arisen within the space of our mind. So we are the master of our mind, just like what Michael was quoting from the Buddha. We remember that experience, we remember all experiences. There is not a single experience that is out there. All experiences are my mind. These things that arise, huge, gigantic experiences are all my mind. Little experiences are all my mind. Little jealousy, huge anger, small, impatience. Those are all my mind. They're arisings of my mind. Also, Rinpoche mentioned that it is very useful to think on impermanence when dealing with things. For one obvious reason is anything that arises in this life arises momentarily only to fall apart and to cease, right? This anger, the situation, this and this, your enemy will go, go, emotions will dissipate, and ultimately also this vessel, this body will fall apart. What's the use of getting insane like this, when even the vessel disintegrates? Also, we remember impermanence not with some kind of an emotional abandonment of morbidity and, uh, uh, depression. We remind ourselves that mind's nature is not a thing that is composed of the five elements like this body, right? When the moment this body is born, it's elementally always already changing toward its disintegration. It is inevitable for any physical thing that is composed of the five elements to come together and fall apart. We in Buddhism we think of our car. I mean, we think of our body as a car and the mind as a passenger. So when at the end of the journey you leave the car, you get into another car. That's what the cyclical existence means, going through the six realms. Based on the quality of our mind, we attain a body in one of the six realms of samsara that is appropriate. So like if our mind has a lot of quality of anger, we attain birth in hell realms, in those kinds of painful bodies where pain never ceases. We have a lot of addiction. We attain a body of a hunger ghost realm where hunger and is never satiated, and we are overcome by it endlessly. In the animal realm, we have ignorance and fear. In demigod realm, we have jealousy. And in God realm, we don't care about others. We're just simply blissed out in our state of attached to our desire is fulfilled by all kinds of pleasures and things until it's time for that karma to run out, and then we experience tremendous difficulty, because in God realms, sentient beings know where they go next, and of course they're huge distress seeing that future. A lot of times, I guess, God realms, when that karma runs out because of selfishness and just being absorbed in this self absorbed pleasure, we fall to hell realms, which is very painful to
God
know.
realms is not to be confused with Abrahamic, or Judeo-Christian kind of God. The word, it's a translation of a word that with the asura, right? It was a Sanskrit
No,
word.
Asura is a demigod. No,
Yeah.
God
Well, what's
realms,
the word for?
Devi,
Yeah, it's very
Devis.
different than we haven't really gone into that a lot here,
It's
so
not a
don't
religious.
get confused with
The
the
six
religious.
realms. The six realms are not.
It's a big topic
The,
actually,
the,
and
the six realms are the realms where sentient beings, meaning mind, awareness, takes on different forms based on different attachments. What controls us the most, the quality of mind that permeates us, is where we take birth in the different realms. But really, we don't have to go anywhere. In the human realm, you can see people who are addicted, who are never satiated. You can see people who are continuously angry, people who are continuously fighting, people who are continuously ignorant and turn away from everything, people who are blissed out based on their, if they have the means, they justify everything as to not look at others, but just like live in their, God realm, somewhere in their skyscraper, away from everything and everyone, not caring, not knowing, not desiring to participate in any way. So, in our own human realm, we can see all the six levels of mind. That's really, it's all about mind. It's not about necessarily physical things. So it's all about the state of mind. And this is what I just wanted to, and really to finish with the point of what Rinpoche was saying. Of course, we are the master of our own mind. Who can be the master of our own mind? So when next time dealing with a very difficult situation, dealing with a difficult person, obstacles, illness, all these kinds of things are called difficult situations, obstacles. We just, project them in different ways. Remember impermanence, as I said, in the sense of the deathless mind. think of impermanence. And then think of, think of things arising and ceasing within the space of awareness, and remember the Buddha nature. So those are the two things that we remember: our essence and the way of being in the world, impermanence and the nature of mind. We rely on these two things. And that's how we deal with things like anger, attachment, ignorance, etc., the five afflictions.
And we talk about Buddhism not being really a religion. Buddha was really offering methods and a path for you to be your own master. Very different than, the idea of setting up a religion in order to worship or to supplicate or to give up, your own autonomy to some omniscient being, that we're in service of, or something like that. So, from the outside, there's iconography and certain kind of cultural and ritualistic elements that have evolved over the centuries in different countries, bringing their own cultural flavor to stuff. So from the external, there's similarities to religions, but the whole concept of you are your own master actually goes against anything religious, if you think about it, at least as we know it, and more, I look at it personally as methods and a path for you to do just that, to be your own master and to work with your mind that way. With that, let's sit, meditate. That's what that is our method and path. So let's sit. We sit on the floor, cross-legged if you can. A cushion helps to bring your hips either in line or above your knees. Cross-legged, you can kind of fold over one if you're flexible enough, and if not, just like this, or half lotus if you want, whatever's comfortable. But sitting and the cushion usually helps. The key is to be comfortable and keep the back straight, not rigid, not like at military attention, but just supple and straight. Same with the shoulders. They're erect, but they're not like pushed back like at attention. The hands, you can rest on the knees. Some people like to do this with their hands, ring finger and thumb. Or you can have the left hand open and the right hand on top of it. Relax, suppleness. The head should be slightly tilted forward. The lips are closed, but the teeth are a little bit apart. Even just settling into this posture, you can start to kind of calm everything down. We're going to breathe through our nose. Unless it's impossible for you to do so, then breathe through your mouth. And just start breathing. Start to focus on the breath and where the breath moves in and out. In our tradition, we meditate with our eyes open. And the key to that is not to intensely stare at something nor unfocus, cross your eyes, kind of space out thing. It's really to rest your gaze on whatever's in front of you. It should be something that doesn't create a story in your head. You know what I mean? Like if you're looking out the window, it shouldn't be a busy street view where you're seeing all your neighbors and seeing things going on. It could be a sky, it could be a picture of something inspiring maybe, but not something that's going to take your attention into a whole story. Lightly rest your gaze. And focus on the place where your breath moves in and out. And just settle and relax. Take a few breaths. We're really watching what our mind is doing and what arises in the mind. And the key to this whole practice is noticing that something has arisen in the mind. Upon noticing that, we don't follow that story, we don't push it away, we don't judge it. We notice it, and then we apply one of these meditation techniques. Go back to the breath, which means focus again, the place where the breath is moving in and out. Focus our attention there. And then another thought has arisen. We notice that. Again, back to the breath. Also in this class, we use the technique of this inner visualization of the mind being like the limitless clarity, calmness of a sky. Clear blue sky, cloudless, open. Settle into that if you can. Into trusting that that is the true nature of mind, because that is the true nature of mind. Mind, the true nature of our mind being Buddha nature, Buddha itself. And trust that that does exist within the mind, almost touching that, glimpsing it, or tasting it. And when you notice that a thought has arisen within that cloud-like, within that sky-like nature of mind, that thought has arisen like a small cloud arises in the sky. And we notice that cloud, and then just watch it dissolve back into the sky. Because it came out of that sky, and it goes back into that sky without leaving a trace, without doing any damage, without leaving any mark on the sky. And the same thing is happening within our mind. These two techniques you're going to have to, whichever one you're working with, will most likely repeat over and over again throughout the session. That's okay. The misconception is that we're trying not to think. That's a misconception. It's not what's happening. So settle into the posture. Back to the breath. What is my mind doing? What's arising in my mind? Thoughts of later, what I have to do later. Back to the breath. Thoughts of resentment, of yesterday, arising like a cloud in the sky-like nature of my mind. Watch that cloud dissolve, settle back into the sky-like nature of my mind, the calm of that clear, blue, limitless, stainless vastness. Breath is without effort. It's letting the breath happen as it happens. Don't force deep breath. Don't force some shallow, quick, rapid breath. Breath as it's at its natural pace, without effort. Breath being at the rate and energy of what it needs in this moment. No preconception about what it should be. If you need a little extra oxygen, naturally take a deeper breath and then go back to the easy, natural breath that's just happening. If you feel very physically uncomfortable, you need to shift your posture slightly. Do so, don't feel locked, and then settle back to the sky-like nature of mind. We'll go back to the breath. Don't judge the thought, don't follow the story of the thought. By story, I mean thought arises about, say, something that happened yesterday, the things you should have done in response to what happened yesterday, and the things you're going to do today to make up for what happened. Back to the breath. Interrupting that train of thought. Using mind to work with mind. If you're feeling a little sluggish, you can raise the angle of your gaze slightly. If you're feeling a little bit too agitated, you can lower the angle of your gaze slightly. Rest in that natural great peace, as they say. Rest in this natural great peace. Just from Nyosho Kempo Rinpoche. This mind beaten helplessly by karma. He talks about it. It's a great quote. Okay. Looking to take some questions if there are any. What's the purpose of existence? Of your existence? I mean, that's kind of presupposing that there is a purpose, right? That, there is existence. At least that's what we think, I think that should be more of the focus. Well, what are we going to do with this existence, I mean, purpose kind of asking what the purpose is, meaning that there's some kind of reason, some kind of motivation behind why we're having this experience, whatever that experience is right now, you know. You know, we're looking at things through a Buddhist perspective, through a Buddhist path, right? Methods and a path from going to confusion to clarity, right? From samsara and nirvana, if we say, but nirvana, that can be a little misleading because it's not like going from one place to another, because samsara and nirvana exist in the same mind, you know, the same time. I'm going to think about it from going to confusion to clarity. And what does that clarity mean? You know, through Buddhist perspective, it means really understanding and realizing what we call the view of Buddhism, you know, which is about impermanence, which is about dependent arising, which means one thing doesn't exist on its own completely, right? Everything has interdependence. Things come into being based on many different causes and conditions connected to many other beings. Limitless web of interconnectedness, you know. What is enlightenment? You know, enlightenment as the full potentiality, you know, realized of human beings, you know, where your mind becomes so vast that you go beyond the, you know, limitations and trappings of just the self, and realizing that the mind is limitless, and experiencing the world, experiencing the universe really with that limitless sky-like nature of mind, interacting with the world in that way where you can truly be of benefit to all sentient beings, you know, in our limited, you know, human non-enlightened samsaric mind. We can make aspirations for that, or we can, you know, make ask the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas to be of benefit and to help us achieve, you know, enlightenment one day, so we can be of benefit to all sentient beings. But that's not possible, you know, until we transcend this samsaric mind. Do you want to expand on that? It's a very difficult
Just a
question.
tiny little bit, but it's a very important question. Very, very important question. Clearly, you're asking this question because you have come to realization that the purpose is not to eat more, sleep more, live in a bigger house, because all of that will disintegrate. All of that, and not just disintegrate on an elemental level, but also, you know, when secondary conditions, causes and conditions are not right, things break down, you know. The planet runs out of oxygen, everything else goes with it, etc. Those are, you know, primary, secondary causes and conditions. But just what Michael said, you know, our full potential is Buddhahood. So it's like a fruit that it must fully ripen, and same for us. It is to experience our full potential, to go from this small, self-centered mind of ignorance to Buddhahood, which is nothing but wisdom and compassion. And of course, it is limitless wisdom and compassion. So can't really speak about it in conceptual terms. You know, we have to understand that when we speak about it, it's not in the realm of conceptual mind, of dualistic mind, of ignorant mind. But but the teachings very definitively say that everything called sentient life will ripen to its utmost potential, which is Buddhahood.
Thanks to the Dharma start that you both have given me, I've experienced in my relative life that non-reactivity is a damn superpower. Who knew? No questions. So thank you. Yeah, and when you speak of non-reactivity, you're talking about not just having emotional reflex response, habitual pattern response to things that we've and reacted the similar way, get our buttons pushed and react a certain way that we've been for a whole life. Um, it doesn't mean we become, you know, removed from the world and are ignoring things happening around us. It's uh, uh allows us to, instead of reacting, we're able to interact, more productively, more without all the maybe baggage that we usually bring, or less baggage than we usually bring. It does not mean, we're just removing ourselves from situations, and if you see somebody's, suffering, it doesn't mean, well, I'm going to meditate and not think about this, what I'm seeing in front of me, and just space out. That's obviously not what you're saying, and I understand that. But that's a very gross example. But I'm just making a distinction. As many people new to these teachings kind of confuse Buddhism with a certain passivity, which is not the case. It actually may make more demands on your interactivities with others, but in a different way, maybe. And I say maybe because this is a path, you know what I mean? And it's like, just because you start to meditate does not mean all these afflictions and all these negative qualities and all these habitual patterns immediately kind of go away, and now I'm a Buddhist and now I'm changed. It doesn't work that way, you know. It's a path and it's a process, and um but at the same time, sometimes you'll see a little progress. You'll a situation will arise and you'll walk away from it thinking, oh, something different happened today because of my practice. That's a big, 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 big deal. Big, 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 big deal. And never should be taken for granted.
I mean, just the fact that you speak about it and you have awareness of it uh, obviously signals that you have had habitual situations from which you broke away, and having autonomy. Again, it's not about control, suppression, being slapped on the face through passivity and things like that. But it's about having autonomy and not being controlled by afflictive emotions. It doesn't mean not being alive or not being aware or not being present. It just means not being slapped around by ignorant mind and all the things that arise from it, which are the five afflictions. So just speaking about it and the fact that you are aware of it means that you broke away from a lot of negative patterns, because we live in series of patterns. Actually, not that many. Our life is usually not that rich. We have like the mother, sometimes we hate, the father we hate, the sister we hate, the neighbor we hate, that one we hate, and we're just stuck in these loops that are continuously circling all over and over and over again. Breaking away from any one of these loops, recognizing them as loops, regaining one's autonomy, not being just thrown, like a boat without sails and an oar onto the ocean of emotions, hurricane ocean of emotions, is huge. And congratulations. Anyway, so this is nice that we can speak about at least moments of clarity.
Several people are asking how it changed your life, and it kind of goes into what you just said. It's if you really take this path and take refuge, with a teacher, and there's a big responsibility then, for you to work with your mind and just not allow yourself to rely on habitual reactions and patterns and things, and you will, you're not gonna, it's like I said, it's not like you take refuge and you suddenly you're Buddha. That, that's most likely not gonna happen. But sometimes you can see these small victories, like I said, and how it helps your life also is that there's a method and a path where you can, have confidence in. Before that, for me personally, it was like a little bit of this kind of philosophy, which made sense, and a little of this philosophy, and a philosophy can be very detailed, intelligent, extremely intelligent, very elegant, but not always easy to realize and practice, and very rarely offer path and method. They offer kind of idea and explanation, but that's not really enough. When we say practice, we don't even just mean sitting on the cushion. Practice also doesn't mean just sitting on the cushion for 20 minutes and meditating. Practice also means in life. You're practicing Dharma in life when you engage in situations with other people, with the world, when things don't go the way you want them to go, or when things really go the way you do want them to go. How your mind reacts to that, that's a whole other, we always talk about the negative and the conflicts and the angries and the people and the enemy. There's a whole other aspects of when things do go really well and when you do get what you want, and how you're going to deal with that, what becomes your expectations. And um by sitting practice, we're working with mindfulness, looking at our own mind, and cultivating also awareness, which is being aware of what's going on, being aware. You're mindful of what's arising in your mind and your reactions, but you also are aware of, I'm aware of Victoria next to me, and there's a sensitivity I would have towards what she's doing and what she's feeling and what her, situation is. And you bring that mindfulness and awareness to the world, if you can, right? Although, if you're not just getting lost in your own emotion and, habitual patterns and, seduced or repulsed by what you're seeing and what, you're engaging in or what's engaging with you. How many times do you meditate? That's, again, like I said, daily practice is very important. Making this a regular thing that you do often is the only way this kind of stuff takes root. You have to sit. You have to meditate. That's how we work with our mind. And it's a process, and it's something you have to dedicate yourself. And the more regular, if you do it in the morning and you do it for, we always encourage people to start with small sessions, 20 minutes, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, but just start to make it a regular thing that you do every day or almost every day. Procrastination. What are the roots of this resistance to taking action? That's a very general statement because it doesn't apply to just one thing. You know what I mean? You can procrastinate about starting going to exercise, but you're at the same time, you're very, very diligent in going to work. You know what I mean? So it's hard to see what the root of the procrastinating is without knowing what you're procrastinating from, because I doubt you procrastinate everything. I'm sure there's things you eagerly begin, you know. Sometimes it's simply laziness, you know. I find that. Sometimes it's not being aware or giving enough importance to what you're, want to be doing or supposed to be doing or have agreed to do.
And sometimes you can also have false expectations or expectations period. You may say, well, if I'm, sometimes we don't initiate things because we feel like we're going to fail, but we really shouldn't project anything, any kind of judgment, especially for meditation. We nature of, having an experience of nature of mind means being within the open space of awareness. So there is no expectation, there is no, I'm going to be blissful, or I'm going to be this, I'm going to be enlightened tomorrow. No, you're just simply in the presence of the nature of mind. And that's why it's very important for us to have gurus and have devotion, because when we are in the presence of beings and we can recollect in our meditation sessions the great qualities of their mind, it gives us the patience, the impetus, the inspiration. And we say, oh my guru, may my mind be. I say to myself all the time, when I'm petty and small and I'm impatient, I think of my teacher and I say to myself, Mike, please help me be like you. Let me be compassionate. Let me be patient. Because to my teacher, I'm just a stupid child, on a mental sense. I'm an old lady, but to him, mentally, I'm, whatever. And he has all the patience and all the love with me when I'm speaking to him, asking questions, being around him. And so, it's very inspiring for us to have those qualities of mind. It helps us enormously to experience beings who are advanced, so that we know, we have like a marker. We go, oh, okay, this is what it looks like, progress. This is what it looks like, maturation. This is what it looks like to be compassionate and wise. It's difficult to do it just in the vagueness of kind of an abstract vagueness of our own ordinary mind. So get inspirations from teachers online, and then try to transition to inspiration from, to teachers in physical presence, because it really inspires us and gives us the impetus to sit, because we can see what we're going toward. We can see what the nature of the mind is supposed to look like when we're in presence of these beings.
I am so fed up with this materialistic life. I got so many griefs, so many deceives in relationships and in life, that I was thinking about suicide. Well, if you're thinking about suicide, the first thing I'm going to say is, if you're in the U.S., the suicide prevention lifeline is 1-800-273-8255. 1-800-273-8255. There is also, if you're not in the U.S. and you give us the place where you are, I can find you a number for that country, which is really important. So I've done that before on here, and we can do it again if you want that. We'll give you that number. Whatever country you're in, we'll find one for you. International suicide hotlines. So if you want that number, I can give you. I don't know what country you're in. Like I said, I can give you the. You could also do 988. You can text that in the United States, 988. So get back to me.
May I?
Yeah, that's the first thing we'll say. And also, if this is something that's really, really constant, besides the immediate suicide hotline, you can, definitely talk to someone, a therapist, psychologist, psychiatrist that deals with this. Is very important first. Go ahead.
I just wanted to make a very, very small point. Please look at anger that started as anger toward others, those who have disappointed you, and then that very same anger. This anger is only one anger, the anger that now turned to you yourself. Please think about where this anger arises and what this anger is. Please think about the importance of your life and your Buddha nature. And please think that this anger is like the poison that poisons pollutes the pure water that is your mind, your precious human life. You know, it is only in human life that we can mature toward Buddhahood. It is so, so, so precious that in Buddhism they say, you know, to meet the teachings and be born at the time when the teaching is alive is like when a blind turtle surfaces, and on the surface there is, you know, some kind of a circle, and the blind turtle surfaces right into that circle of where the teaching, the time, and human birth and all the conditions are set for ripening toward Buddhahood. Please, please think on your Buddha nature.
Yeah, and if you want to write in what country you're in, we can send you that hotline for that specific country. You know, after what I said about the immediate, you know, emergency of if that's what's going on, and suicide hotline, and the, you know, committing to speaking to someone, a therapist or something. In addition to those things, although those should be primary first, while you have this human existence, you know, there are many people that you could help, you know, with your time, you know, giving of your time to people who are less fortunate, you know, giving your time to various organizations that help people who are sick, who are homeless, who are suffering. Um, I often recommend to a lot of people who are feeling very depressed, despondent, um, or feel like life is just hopeless or useless or things like that, um, being of service to others. That often can shift, you know, that mindset a bit. And at a minimum, other people are being helped, you know, that can need it, you know. So definitely get help if this is a thought that's plaguing you. I mean, it's not uncommon to have thoughts about suicide, right? That people do have it all the time, but if it goes into something that it's, you know, where you're really contemplating and you're really considering this as a solution or an option or something, then I suggest you know, get help immediately, and you know, find somebody to talk to. It's very important. You know, this person's not writing back about where they are, but I hope you do, and we can give you that information. What about diet? I don't think that's really that very important, except, you know, not, you don't want to be eating things that are making you very unhealthy, you know, or eating too much where it's making you unhealthy, eating too little that's making you unhealthy, because in order to practice, you know, we have this vessel, and, you know, to keep it healthy is only going to, you know, allows us to practice. You know, when we are constantly having, you know, illness and injury and things like that, it becomes harder to practice, um, especially when we're beginners and when we're beginning. So something moderate, you know, that's healthy is really important. um, you know, and if there's things that you want to eat or not eat, like some people choose to be a vegetarian or not, but that's not really something that's Buddha says to do or not do anything. There may be teachers, individual teachers, that encourage their students not to eat meat or some kind of thing like that, but that's different after you've taken refuge with a teacher, or made a connection somehow with a teacher that suggests that.
And Kalu Rinpoche made a very important point 2 weeks ago. He said, eat in order to keep the vessel healthy, because it is in this vessel that we can move toward liberation, toward Buddhahood. So eat to keep the vessel healthy, supple, and good for practice, and don't eat because of taste and desire, because that's what's very, very important, is to become more and more free of things that control us, and sacrificing autonomy, like thinking about food all the time, for example. So eat to be healthy and to preserve the vessel.
This is a good question. How can you manage immense joy? Recently, I landed my first job in a new city and I am very excited.
Awesome.
But I am worried that I am irrationally exuberant and I'm setting up false expectations about my future at my new job. Good question.
Very good question. In Buddhism, uh, and Kalu Rinpoche actually touched on that. He said it's very, very important that equally the highs and the lows, so the difficult and very, very moments of exhilaration where we win the lottery and things like this, do not overcome our mind, that the clarity is maintained both in praise and blame, in difficult and exhilarating. uh, maintain Maintaining awareness and not projecting and getting crazy and thinking, well, now I'm going to make this much, now I'm going to do this and this, all this kind. These are just all this stuff is based on projection and hopes and fears. So maintaining mind's equanimity in situations of difficulty and tremendous success, reminding oneself that if I am successful and good things are arising for me in my life, not to just self-absorb and keep everything for myself and be afraid of losing any little bit of it, but thinking in a Buddhist way, as practitioners, we think, well, if I have something that benefits me enormously, how can I share this benefit and also spread it to others? This way, you're not going to be like a balloon that becomes full of hot air and will explode eventually. Maintaining equanimity, maintaining awareness, maybe thinking of how to expand all the success and good things to others, your co-workers, your family, etc., will keep things balanced. And don't engage in so much fantasy with hopes and fears, because with hopes, fears come. Fear of losing the success, fear of not making as much or not having whatever the qualities that we project and we desire so much. And then we become engulfed in desire. And, God forbid, little bit of what we want is not fulfilled. We fall prey to deep fears and the opposite of being exhilarated. So just maintaining awareness, practicing keeping equanimity, and thinking of how we can expand our success to others.
Okay. We're going to, do you have any tips for walking meditation, or would you recommend that practice? I don't mean to discount sitting practice, just sometimes the walking kind seems appealing.
Sure.
Yeah, there's walking meditation. It really is best, though, if you begin something like that after you have a very solid sitting meditation practice, because if you're not really familiar with a sitting meditation practice, then walking meditation often becomes just taking a walk, which is very pleasant. I like taking walks. Could be a very calming, soothing activity, depending on where you're doing it. But there's a difference between taking a walk and taking in everything on that walk. Oh, look at that. That's very beautiful. Look at that person. That person's very ugly or pretty or not or whatever. It's very easy for the mind to just be lost in story rather than the mind being looking at itself. So I would engage in that with a teacher, or at least through a teaching, like a book or a video or something by a master.
Thich
Thich Nhat Hanh is a teacher, a wonderful Buddhist teacher, who probably has teachings about that. But if you're
Definitely.
really new, I would really wait for a bit to get really into a sitting practice. For the person who brought up about suicide again, we didn't hear back from you, so I don't know what country you're in, but you can Google international suicide hotlines if you feel you are on the brink of something like that. And if not, um, we really encourage you to find someone to talk to, a professional, to begin, working with that. You can also, uh, meditation practice, Buddhist teachings can also be helpful, but something when it reaches that critical point does need, I think, some professional help. We encourage that, please.
And there are therapists and psychiatrists who are also uh, Buddhist practitioners, if that appeals to you, if that makes you feel like you're in the right
Yeah.
direction of speaking to someone. Lots and lots and lots of practitioners, Buddhist
Yes.
practitioners, are actually doctors
Yeah,
in
psychologists and therapists, and you don't have to
in
be
that
in the same
field.
place. You can do it through Zoom and
Yes.
online, and kind of secure lines, secure kind of internet lines, not that that are completely confidential and encrypted and encoded. I'm assuming. So please do that if that's where you're at. Um, I'm sorry you didn't write back, but I appreciate you reaching out, but you can also, if you have further questions, we have an email address, which is Michael Imperioli Meditation 101 at Gmail. We're going to close by dedicating the merit from today's session for the benefit of all beings. By this merit, may all beings
Attain
attain
the
the state
state
of
of omniscience,
enlightenment and conquer
conquer
the
the
enemies
enemies
of
of the
faults and
faults and
delusions.
delusions. May
May
they
they
be
be liberated
liberated
from
from
this
this ocean
ocean
of
of samsara
samsara
and
and
its
its
pounding
pounding
waves
waves
of
of
birth,
birth, old
old
age,
age, sickness,
sickness,
and
and
death.
death.
Thank you,
Thank you
Nick
all. Thank
Solidio,
you,
our
Nick.
producer. You can go to the website Solidago Productions, where there's a list of teachers that you should look up. Find their teachings on YouTube and their books wherever books are, wherever you get books. We'll see you next week.
Thank you. Practice.